Tyler Alred was drinking and driving at one point and got into an accident that unfortunately resulted in the death of his friend who was driving with him. Now, technically, he was not over the cutoff point for being considered under the influence, but because he was too young, it's an automatic, like you were driving drunk, and so it is manslaughter. Somebody died as a result of the accident, and so he received a sentence. Now, the actual details, I want to read you what was listed for a sentence because it's very interesting, particularly the last part. So let's go to this. It says, in order to stay out of prison, Alred must graduate from high school, graduate from welding school, that seems oddly specific, take drug, alcohol, and nicotine tests for a year, wear a drug and alcohol bracelet, take part in victims' impact panels, and attend church for the next 10 years. Now, it was oddly specific up until the end. The end is where I think that some people, including us secular folk at the Young Turks, might have a problem with. What do you think about this sentence right off the bat?
Well, I think this brings up an interesting point. We talked a little bit last week on TYTU about reforming somebody versus just punishing them. And I think maybe you guys talked about that on the common room too. And I do think that in this case, he is somebody that's worth reforming or because, you know, this wasn't somebody who went out and voluntarily killed somebody. Mm-hmm. You know, this is somebody who made a mistake, a big mistake, but a mistake. And I think that probably not a lot of people can honestly say that they've never gotten behind the wheel at a time that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I think that most people, I mean, if you can say that, congratulations to you, you're a stand-up human being, but I think most people have probably gotten behind the wheel when they shouldn't have, and in this case it ended up very bad for this young man. And I do think that it is worth, rather than, you know, I think it's his sister has an interesting statement, which is, she says, we don't need to see 2 lives wasted for a mistake. And I do agree with that statement, and I do think that it's worth, you know, doing something positive rather than just sending him to prison.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, like we talked about, the church just kind of makes you cringe a little bit because why church? And now he does point out, so the lawyer says, my client goes to church every Sunday. That's what his defense attorney said. That isn't going to be a problem for him. But now I wonder, did the judge already know that he went to church every Sunday, or is he just sentencing church, and that would have been the case no matter whether this was a religious guy or no matter what kind of religion he may be choosing to observe?
I would imagine that he probably knows, and I'm basing this on the fact that he says he has to go to welding school. I imagine he was planning to go to welding school. So obviously he's done some research into this kid's life. As you said, his sister doesn't want to see him to go to jail. Now we should point out too that the family of the friend who died doesn't want to see him go to jail either. So we're not really questioning that. I don't know how much the desires of the family should play into what the judge decides in any event, but we should at least mention that. But it's the church part that we have a problem with. We have a statement from University of Tulsa law professor Gary Allison, and he says, this speaks to maybe forcing people to do religious activities that they would otherwise not do on their own free will. I don't know why a church would want to have somebody come to it under the force of government. Now, he makes 2 points there. Now, as you say, the kid apparently already went to church. I'm not concerned with whether or not this is a problem for him. I consider this a problem if other judges start thinking that it's okay to sentence people to go to church. And if you are in favor of church, how would you feel if he had sentenced him to go to mosque every week for 10 years? I have a feeling most of America, first and foremost, Fox News would have a problem with that. And I, as a member of none of these religions, see them all equally offensive to force someone to go. Second point being, is it actually honest, and do the churches want somebody being forced to go to them? Again, not as worried about that, but I don't want judges being able to sentence people to do any sort of explicitly religious penance.
And if you really want to turn somebody's life around, I think there are plenty of other ways to do that and to turn somebody's life in a positive direction, and arguably church isn't even the best one of them, regardless of whether you're religious or not. You know, this guy could go to church every day for his entire life and never become a better person, and maybe the judge could have said, you have to fulfill 1 to 2 hours of some sort of service a week, and that can fall under one of these several categories. And if he wanted to choose church on his own, then that's fine. But to have a judge impose that on him, I don't think is right.
And the rest of the sentence, I think, does play to what you're saying. It does seem designed to turn his life around and make sure that he doesn't backslide into drinking and driving, that sort of thing. So don't have a problem with that, but I'm curious to know what you all think about church being part of a sentence. And right now it's one person. You don't think that other judges are looking at this and thinking, maybe I could do that in the future?